This study from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, 2018 study with thousands of participants, and they determined at the end of the study that only 12% of Americans are what they consider metabolically healthy. That means 88% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. That's a big problem. Recent studies show that it's actually closer to about 93% of Americans being metabolically unhealthy, pre-diabetic, insulin resistant, obese and overweight, different forms of those different characteristics. So you can see this study showed that only 6.8% of adults have what they consider optimal cardiometabolic health. Another study from 2016 from the Mayo Clinic set out to determine how healthy do Americans live, how active are Americans and what they considered a healthy, active lifestyle. And they looked at four main characteristics to determine if Americans are actually metabolically active and healthy. The first characteristic was, number one, they don't smoke cigarettes. The second characteristic was they get sufficient activity, moderate to vigorous exercise for at least 150 minutes per week. The third characteristic was they are eating a healthy diet. And the fourth marker was if they have a body fat percentage for males of less than 20% and for women less than 30%. Let me ask you, for those watching on YouTube, what percentage of Americans hit those four criterias that you see here on the screen? Don't smoke, get enough exercise, eat a healthy diet, and have healthy body fat percentages. What do you think? How many Americans hit that percentage? The study shows only 3% of Americans hit that criteria. You can see the study right here, and I'll reference it down in the notes down below. This graph is going to show you the obesity rates in the United States starting from 1985, and you could see here in 1985, the states that were light blue and moderate blue had about 10 to 14% percentages of people that had obesity. Now let's fast forward and see what happens over the next 20 years or so. You can see as the years go on, 1989 to 1990, more states are developing blue. We see dark blue, which is 15 to 19% in 1995. Then in the late 90s, it gets over to the yellow, which is 20 to 24%. And by the early 2000s, we start to see states that have obesity rates from 25 to 29%, and in some states 29%. Now Harvard is saying this. They just put out this article, and it's stating that by the year 2030, 50% of the entire population in the United States will be classified as being obese. Not just overweight, but half of the population will be obese in just a matter of a few years. More stats from the CDC and cancer.org show the following. They're showing that 1 in 3 women in the United States will be diagnosed with cancer. In men, it's 1 in 2. About 60% of Americans have either diabetes or prediabetes. I would estimate it's even higher. People are just unaware. They're living a life with diabetes or prediabetes, and they just have not been diagnosed. And check out this stat. They're saying that by the year 2032, 1 in 2 children will be born on the autism spectrum. That's 1 in 2 kids. Heart disease is still the #1 killer in the United States and most first world countries. About 695,000 people die every year from heart disease. That's 1 in every 5 deaths. And you can see a person dies from heart disease every 33 seconds in the United States. I've already been recording this for a few minutes. We already have had several people die in the United States from heart disease just from the beginning of this lesson. The question is why? Why is disease so high? Is the Make America Health movement going to make a difference? Well, first of all, we need to understand this. The system we have right now in the United States does not work. It is a broken system. And before I get into these crazy stats here, I want to share this. I respect all doctors. I believe they're trying to do good work. It's the system they're in and the flawed education that has created this problem. They are in the business, big gov and big food and big pharma, of selling sickness. This is how the healthcare industry turns symptoms into sales and diseases into dollars. We know that big pharma is a subscription model. Allow me to share what I mean by that. Here's an example of how this works. We have convenience stores all across the United States. They're everywhere. When we walk into a convenience store, at the front of the store, we see a whole bunch of processed foods with inflammatory artificial ingredients, seed oils, red dyes, high fructose corn syrup. These are ingredients that are banned in other countries, in Europe and even in Canada, yet we allow it in our food supply. And the foods they sell at the front of the store, at the convenience store, are cheap and easy, and they're hyper palatable, meaning they taste really good and you want more the more you eat it. So most people, 93% of Americans or so, buy the food at the front of the store. And what happens next? They get symptoms. They start to have high blood pressure. They start gaining weight. They develop erectile dysfunction, insulin resistance, migraines, autoimmune disease. I mean, I could go on and on and on about the symptoms they get. The average person does not see those symptoms as the body's way of communicating to them. Instead, they make an appointment with their allopathic medical doctor and they explain their symptoms to their conventional practitioner. And that practitioner, the doctor, says, no worries. I want you to go back to this same convenience store. But now, instead of heading to the front as you've been doing, I want you to walk to the back of the store to pick up the prescription for this medication to mask the symptoms of what you're dealing with. Yet they don't change their ways. They come back to the front of the store, they keep buying the inflammatory foods, return to the back of the store to get to the second, third, or fourth prescription, and you can see how it has them hooked. It's a subscription model. But here's the thing, symptoms are a beautiful gift from your human body. Inside of your body, you have an innate intelligence called the innate intelligence. It's an inner physician, and it's the world's greatest doctor. It's put there to heal your body, meaning God built your body to be self-healing. There's not a medication, a vaccine, a shot, a surgery, or a diet that can replace the healing powers you have within all 70 trillion of your cells. When you have a symptom, this is your innate intelligence's way. Your body's communicating to you to get you back into homeostasis. The symptoms are your body's check engine light. If you were driving on the highway in your car and your check engine light turned on, what a gift. It shows you something's wrong. Would you just cover up the light or find a way to turn off that light and keep driving? Well, some people do, and they end up in big trouble. The goal is to pull the car over, open up the hood, find out what the actual root cause is, remove that interference, and the symptom, the check engine light, goes away. You are now safe to drive your car. Same thing with the symptoms you're dealing with. We have been brainwashed to believe that symptoms are a problem and we should hate symptoms and hate diseases and hate these diagnoses. But here's the thing, they're gifts from your innate intelligence, and the sad truth is a cured patient is a lost customer. This leads me to a really important part of this lesson. Neville Goddard said, "We are only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination." What do we mean by that? Well, you have this universal intelligence within your body called your mind. And you have a conscious mind and you have a subconscious mind. 95% of your health and your results in life come from your subconscious mind. And what happens in your environment, the conversations you have, the TV commercials, the billboards, the friends, family, coworker, social media, mainstream news, your social media feed, all of that goes into your subconscious mind, creating weakness of attention. Allow me to explain how this works. I love my mom. Here's a photo of me and my mother. If you're listening on the podcast, you have to go to youtube.com/𝙎𝙬𝘽𝙎 to watch this lesson and see the presentation slides. My mom is a superhero. I love her. She's done so much for me. Every Thursday, I drive to my mom's apartment and she makes me and my fiance an incredible dinner, a Persian feast. She is from Iran, we are from Iran, and she makes delicious Iranian food. And we have an amazing time. But there is a problem at the dinner every time I go over on Thursday. She has the television on. And what do I see on the television? Television commercials, TV commercials. It's one big pharma commercial after another. And then there's some big food commercials, but it's Cialis, Viagra. Oh, you can't sleep, take an Ambien. It's this big pharma commercial that leads to the next big pharma commercial, and it's nonstop. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, is every single commercial from big pharma? And I did some research, and I'm gonna reveal this to you today. What percentage of cable TV commercials in the United States are directly funded by big pharma? The answer is 75%, at least in 2020. It probably is even higher after COVID. 75% is what the studies show of commercials are funded by Big Pharma. The next question I asked is, okay, out of the 195 countries, how many of them allow Big Pharma to market directly to the consumer? The answer is only 2 countries, the United States and New Zealand. That's it. I also asked the question, all right, what percentage comes from fast food commercials? And the answer is about 11 to 29% globally. So in the US, it's about 17%. So essentially, if you have your television on, whether you are consciously watching it or it's on in the background, you have all of these commercials from Big Pharma and Big Food manipulating your subconscious mind, your decision making, your habits, which lead to disease, which lead to poor lifestyle behaviors. We need to control our environment because our environment determines the thoughts that we think and our belief system, which determines the actions we take, the habits we create, the results we get, and essentially our destiny. I learned this the hard way. I used to be obese. You can see photos right here. I was fully indoctrinated into the Big Pharma system, fast food system, conventional medicine, and I suffered with physical obesity. This is me at 250 pounds. Mental obesity. I was depressed and suicidal. I was addicted to fast food. You can see some photos of me in my early 20s. You can see how unhealthy I was. This is when I was 23, 24 years old. Here on the screen, I'm 40 years old, and I was dealing with the following: a broken metabolism, physical and mental obesity. I was pre-diabetic, I had high blood pressure, and I had metabolic syndrome. And I was looking for answers. I made appointments with my conventional doctors, and I explained all the symptoms I was dealing with, 24 years old. And I also had erectile dysfunction, by the way. And the doctor would simply prescribe a medication and suggest that I just simply eat less and move more. That doesn't work. We already know cutting calories does not work for weight loss, at least sustainable weight loss, and symptoms are a gift. We don't mask them. So I had to learn. And here's the thing. I learned that it's not my fault and it's not your fault. The system is set up this way, but it is your responsibility. Responsibility is your ability to respond to life. And when I started to take responsibility and ownership, which I believe the 𝙎𝙎 movement is helping us do, and I'll get to more of that in a minute, we start to change our lives. And one of the things that I came across that I had to adopt, and I hope you adopt today, is this quote from Alvin Toffler. He said, "The illiterate of the 21st century, it's not those who cannot read and write, it's those who cannot learn, unlearn, and then relearn." I had to unlearn all of the BS that was fed to me by Big Pharma, mainstream news, my conventional doctors, and as a result, I was able to transform my health. I went from 250 pounds to 180 pounds. I lost 80 pounds total. I went from 34% body fat to as low as 6% body fat, size 38 waist to size 30 waist, overcame depression, overcame those thoughts of wanting to, I can't even say it because I don't want to get banned on YouTube, but you might know what I'm talking about. And let's talk about the movement now. We have this big movement called 𝙎𝙎, Make America Healthy Again. And Robert Kennedy Jr. has an interesting track record. He's been appointed to lead this movement. And this lesson is not political, although once you bring up 𝙎𝙎 or bring up RFK, I guess it automatically becomes political, but I'm not coming from this from a political sense. But here are some of the things that RFK has been able to do. And by the way, I'm being mentored. I've been mentored by the greatest person in the health space, Dr. Pompa. And I remember 3 or 4 years ago, he brought on RFK to a Zoom training call, and RFK laid it all out for us, and here's what he talked about. So here are some of the things that he did. RFK served as the chief prosecuting attorney for Riverkeeper, an environmental organization focused on protecting the Hudson River and other waterways. His environmental work often intersected with public health, emphasizing detrimental effects to pollution on human health, especially toxins in water and air. If you really want to learn how dangerous our water supply is these days, watch a movie called Dark Waters. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but it'll blow you away about DuPont and 3M and what they did to poison us with our water supply and some of the products they were producing. RFK has long advocated against mercury emissions, which is a heavy metal from coal-fired plants, due to the detrimental impacts on neurological health. RFK has raised awareness about mercury exposure through vaccines and seafood, emphasizing its risks to children and pregnant women. He founded the Children's Health Defense. I've been donating to them for years, by the way, an organization advocating for vaccine safety, informed consent, and reducing exposure to environmental toxins. His work through the Children's Health Defense includes lawsuits and campaigns to industries accountable for health-related harms, especially those affecting children. He's been a vocal critic of pharmaceutical companies. That's why they're going after him, by the way, and government regulatory agencies like the CDC and FDA, arguing that conflicts of interest can compromise public health policies. He has called for greater transparency in vaccine safety, research, and regulatory processes. What I love about RFK is that he is focusing on environmental toxins. And I believe, yes, our nutrition is so poor, people are sedentary, we're not active, we're not moving the body, and those are bad. But I believe the reason why we have 93% of Americans being unhealthy, metabolically unhealthy, is because of environmental toxins. And he played a key role in several lawsuits against these corporations accused of polluting the environment or producing harmful products to human health. And let's discuss the toxicity part. This is a really important part of the lesson here, because where are these toxins coming from? Well, here are some ways we're getting exposed to these toxins. This study from the University of Newcastle showed that the average person consumes around 2,000 tiny pieces of plastic each week, which is about 5 grams, which equates to the weight of the average credit card. This study shows the average American is eating a credit card in plastic every 7 days, okay? This is another source. Easy win for you. Well, let me go back here a second. Easy win for you, use glass water bottles. Don't heat up plastic Tupperware. Store your food in glass Tupperware. Glass is where it's at. I have a bottle of water right here that I drink, and it is in glass because I don't use plastic as much as possible. I try to avoid it. Another exposure is from receipts, cash register receipts. Check this out. Studies have found that individual thermal receipts can contain BPA that is 250 to 1,000 times greater than that in a can of food. So the next time you're at the grocery store or the gas station and they hand you the receipt, say, "No, thank you. I will see this on my statement. I don't need the receipt." Do not grab that receipt. People put it in their pocket. Their pocket gets contaminated with BPA. Women put it in their bra and it gets absorbed by their breast. This is not good. This creates cancer and a lot of problems. And it also leads to weight gain and weight loss resistance. And I already mentioned, Harvard is saying by the year 2030, 50% of the population will be classified as obese. I don't think it's because they're eating too much and not moving enough. That may be a problem, but I think it's a toxicity issue. And it's not about calories, by the way. There's numerous studies, which I'm going to share with you right now, that show it is toxins that's causing obesity, diabetes, prediabetes, PCOS. The Journal of Diabetes Investigation even proved this. They're called New Risk Factors for Obesity and Diabetes, Environmental Chemicals. So just telling, and here's a big pet peeve. We have doctors, these social media influencers, fitness coaches, personal trainers, and look, I used to be one of them, who tell their clients in their online community, you're overweight, just eat less and move more. It's just a matter of calories in versus calories out. That's like getting access to one of the world's richest men, Warren Buffett, and going to one of his conferences, learning about wealth building from Warren Buffett, and you get an opportunity to ask Warren a question. He chooses you, and you say, "Warren, how did you get so rich? Could you teach me how you got so rich?" And he says, "It's simple, Ben. Just spend less than you earn." Makes sense, but it's not giving you the solution. It's the same thing with the whole calories in versus calories out. Makes sense, but it's not giving you the solution. It's not about calories. The old way of thinking is your genetics determine obesity, lack of exercise, older age. The new model, which is the accurate model, is that it's environmental pollutants and chemicals. Okay, here are some studies showing this. This is from the Environmental Health Perspective, titled "Obesogens: An Environmental Link to Obesity." Here's what the study said. Many in the medical and exercise physiology communities remain wedded to poor diet and lack of exercise as the sole causes of obesity. However, researchers are gathering convincing evidence of chemical obesogens, dietary, pharmaceutical, and industrial compounds that may alter metabolic processes and predispose some people to gain Wait, so these are toxins called 𝙎𝙎𝘽𝙎𝘖. They enter the body, activate a pathway called 𝑃-PAR gamma, which enlarge fat cells and create obese animals and obese human beings. Okay, more on this in a second. This study also showed that this is the case. So the body stores these toxins, these lipophilic, fat-loving toxins, in our fat as a survival mechanism to prevent them from freely circulating in the body. This is because I mentioned that innate intelligence earlier. It's smart. It wants to keep you alive. So when toxins enter your body, it activates that 𝑃-PAR gamma pathway, and it shuttles those toxins away from your vital organs, because it'll kill you right away, out of the bloodstream into where? Where is there room? In your fat cells. It creates larger fat cells, and if there's not enough room, it'll create new fat cells. This is how it works. Increased body fat, more body fat stores, increased body fat, vicious cycle, vicious cycle. So here's what the study shows in terms of how these toxins are making us fat. It is noteworthy that as their structure are mainly lipophilic, meaning fat-loving, their ability to increase fat deposition has added consequences, increasing the capacity of their own retention. This has the potential for a vicious spiral, not only increasing obesity, but also increasing the retention of other lipophilic pollutants. These are chemicals with even broader ranges of adverse effects and actions. This might offer an explanation as to why obesity is an underlying risk factor for so many diseases, including cancer. The study goes on to show this. The image illustrates the potential of this vicious cycle, where these toxins enter the body, goes into our fat cells. You can see what happens, that it increases our body fat, which then creates new body fat if it needs to, and it just leads to more body fat getting created, creating systemic inflammation. Now, where are these toxins coming from? They're all over the place. They're from our cleaning supplies, new furniture, they're from lead, mercury, but I want to go over the most detrimental super toxins that are really causing disease and inflammation and weight gain in our society. Before I do, I think it's important to explain this study right here from the Endocrine Society. They have two classifications of these toxins. One classification is called 𝙎𝙎𝘽𝙎𝘖. These are chemicals that can enter the body and disrupt normal lipid metabolism, which can lead to obesity. And a new classification that you probably have not heard about called 𝙈𝙊𝙍𝑗𝑛𝑠. Ḓ are chemicals that enter the body and kill the beta cells within your pancreas that produce insulin and disrupt their function and interfere with normal energy metabolism, which can lead to diabetes. Okay, so what are some things you can do? Some low barrier wins, some low hanging fruit wins, I should say. Drink out of glass bottles instead of plastic. Use glass Tupperware instead of plastic. Say no to cash register receipts. Do an audit on your household supplies and home environment, and get a machine called Jasper. It's one of the best home air purifying machines out there. It's the Ferrari of air purifying machines. I have 4 of them. One is right here in my studio running right now 24/7. We have a coupon code KETOCAMP to get a discount. We'll drop it down below. But let's get into the 3 biggest toxins in our environment causing inflammation, causing disease and weight gain. These are going to be lead, mercury, and glyphosate. The GOAT Dr. Pompa said, I believe there are 3 main toxins affecting 4 generations that are leading to an explosion of chronic disease and obesity. This study from the Environmental Working Group, they examined the cord blood of newborns, and here's what they found. These newborns began life exposed to as many as 287 of the 413 chemicals in the study. 180 chemicals are known to cause cancer. Cancer rates in children have risen 67.1% since 1950. According to the Columbia University School of Public Health, 95% of cancer is caused by diet and the environment. Let's start with lead. Our parents grew up in the lead generation. Lead-based paint, lead was in our gasoline, and lead gets stored in your bones. It affects 4 generations in 2 ways. The lead is inherited in utero from mom to baby for 4 generations. Number 2, lead turns on bad genes associated with many diseases, even including obesity, for 4 generations. You think about lead in our water supply, and we think about Flint, Michigan. But it's not just Flint, Michigan. Studies are showing that it's not just Flint. 18 cities in Pennsylvania, including Pittsburgh, have higher lead exposure than Flint. This study showed, don't drink the water, lead found in California schools. This study from Scientific American showed mothers' lead exposure could affect newborns' brains. Pregnant women exposed to lead had newborns who scored slightly lower on tests measuring reflexes and other skills tied to brain development, according to a new study from China. This longitudinal study on chronic lead exposure and physical growth in Boston children. Here's what the study showed. The results suggest that chronic lead exposure in childhood may result in obesity persisting into adulthood. This study, titled "Lead Exposure Changes Gut Microbiota, Increases Chances of Obesity," said early life exposure to lead causes long-lasting impact on the gut microbiome, and changes of the gut microbiome may partially contribute to the increased body weight in adult life. Then we have mercury. I have a story to share with you on mercury in a second, but where do you get this mercury exposure? Silver amalgam fillings are the #1 exposure to mercury. More on that in a minute. The contact lenses from the late 80s and early 90s contained thimerosal, which is mercury. Many flu shots and vaccinations contain mercury. Mercury is a problem. This study in FASB indicates that the more amalgam fillings present in your mouth, the more mercury you will have in your organs, including the brain, kidneys, heart, and your liver, from silver amalgam fillings. And if you had them for a very long time, it's still vaporizing and going into your organs, going into your brain. They might even be black by now, but they're still a problem. The 𝙕₊ study is a really fascinating study. Gustav 𝙕₊ was a medical jurist and professor of toxicology at the University of Munich and has carried out a new and impressive study which shows that the amount of mercury in aborted embryos and dead infants corresponds to the number of amalgam fillings present in mom. That means if your mom, let's say you never had silver amalgam fillings, which is great, but your mother had silver amalgam fillings when she gave birth to you, the same amount of mercury that was in your mom's mouth from fillings is now stored in your brain. That's one exposure I got from my mom, by the way. Mother's dental amalgams increase child's exposure to mercury before and after birth. The TAGM study analysis and clinical correlates the mercury in maternal and cord blood, breast milk, so they found mercury in the mom's breast milk. Correlation between blood mercury levels in mothers and newborns in Brazil, and mercury has been linked to obesity. Increased methylmercury toxicity related to obesity in diabetic mice. Mercury also increases visceral fat. Visceral is the bad fat around your organs. That's inflammatory. It adds pressure to your organs, creates fatty liver disease and chronic disease. And this study is showing their association between blood mercury levels and visceral fat adiposity in adults. This study from Hugh Fundenberg, medical doctor. At the time of the study, he was the world's leading immunologist as the 13th most quoted biologist of our time, with nearly 850 papers in peer-reviewed journals. And here's what he found. He got a lot of backlash for this. Quote, if an individual has had 5 consecutive flu shots between 1970 and 1980, the years of the study, his or her chance of developing Alzheimer's disease is 10 times greater than if they had 1, 2, or no vaccinations. When asked why, he said the gradual mercury and aluminum buildup in the brain. Here's my story. I had 8 silver fillings in my mouth for 20 plus years. And I was doing everything right. Keto, fasting, I was training at my CrossFit gym that I used to own, but I was starting to gain weight. I had chronic fatigue. I felt awful. I was spending hundreds of dollars on supplements each month, didn't make a difference. And then I discovered the issue with mercury amalgam fillings, and I went to a biological dentist that practices safe amalgam removal. If you have silver fillings, make sure you go to a biological dentist. They're called holistic dentists that practice safe amalgam removal. It should look like this. I'm covered up. I'm breathing through this nose oxygen thing. There's a suction cup above me, getting any excess mercury. It changed my life. I've been healthier every single year since that. And here's the reason why this is a problem. Part of the MAHA movement is bringing on Dr. Oz. Trump nominates Dr. Oz to run the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And he has an episode on his Dr. Oz show from many years ago on why silver amalgam fillings are so dangerous. And I respect him for putting this on national TV. I want you to check out this clip so you can really understand how problematic mercury is from silver amalgam fillings. Check this out.
Exactly right. In the Scandinavian countries, in 2008, they banned amalgams because of environmental and health purposes. Now, environmental is when you take out amalgams, and that's when the most amount of mercury is released, it can get into the water supply. There also were a number of studies that came out of Sweden that really showed some health risks with the mercury coming off the amalgams and offering up all of these problems that Dr. 𝙎𝙬🎑 is talking about.
Walk me through exactly how the mercury gets out of the amalgams. I mean, we talked about this vaporization that was not known to even exist, a few decades ago.
That's exactly right. So whenever the amalgam starts to wear, any type of contact, so imagine chewing, people who grind their teeth, people who have there are factors that increase the amount of mercury vapor coming off, the amount of amalgams in your mouth. How old are they? When they get older, they corrode, and the breakdown of that mercury vapor comes out much greater. Do you grind your teeth for a long period of time? Do you have carbonated sodas, which lowers the pH in the mouth and increases the amount of mercury? So there are a number of factors that actually can accelerate that amount of mercury, but they just haven't tested it enough to correlate it with these medical issues.
So I was doing my own homework on this, and mercury vapors rising out of the teeth, they're invisible to the eye. No one has ever seen them. But for the first time on television, for the first time ever, I'm going to show you what happens when you brush your teeth with mercury fillings. I'm going to get some help from a friend, Dave Wentz. I worked with Dave and his PhD dad a long time. Their company are big sponsors of HealthCore, which is the Children's Health Foundation. We were doing a program together, and I witnessed you do this demonstration with your father. It just blew me away. And I wanted you to bring it alive on stage today. So if you could, show us how this monitor and this little contraption you built can reveal to us what happens when we brush our teeth.
Okay. Well, what we have is a set of teeth with typical silver fillings in them, and we've contained it in this glove box with a special air filter to protect everyone in the room, so we don't have any mercury toxic element. We don't want it out.
And so what's the amount of mercury right now that's in this box?
We've ventilated it. We've used the filter to clear it out, so we're at 0 now.
Okay, so I'm going to put my hands in the glove so you can run the device. And
Okay.
here, just to point out, you built us a mouth here. Can we all see the mouth there? And what do you have in there? Those are amalgam fillings?
Yep. We've been told that when you mix mercury with silver, tin, copper, it becomes completely stable. No mercury vapor supposed to be released. And we're going to do a little demonstration to show how much is released.
So if I brush, for example, parts of the teeth that don't have any mercury, like here, that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
But you're arguing that if I brush down here, it is. Okay, go ahead. I'll start brushing now. Now, at what point should I be concerned? At what level is it, more than we're supposed to have?
Anything over 0 is toxic. So we're at 61.
Oh my goodness, 61?
61 micrograms.
Now, how can anyone dispute that mercury is coming off amalgams?
You really can't. You can't. It's happening. We have the devices, we have the technology to measure that mercury vapor, and we are well above the limits that you would want to be exposed to. That mercury is coming off the fillings into your mouth, going across the blood-brain barrier into your brain.
Thank you very much. And I saw this the first time, and I could not believe that it actually was revealing something that we've been disputing. This is a science experiment, but it does conclusively, to me anyway, demonstrate that we do shed gas off mercury in ways that we don't want to when we brush our teeth.
There you go. You can see how these fillings, it should be criminal to put them in anybody's mouth, especially children. Here are the most common symptoms of mercury: depression, mild fatigue, anxiety, forgetfulness, eyelid, face, or muscle twitching, digestive issues, constipation and/or diarrhea, frequent bad breath, constant body odor, dizziness, irritability, sensitivity to sound, inability to concentrate, which is brain fog, abnormal menses, low body temperature, cold hands and feet, tender teeth, tinnitus, insomnia, metallic taste in the mouth, nail fungus, unexplainable anger, autoimmune, and diabetes. I had a lot of these, by the way. I didn't have the abnormal menses, but I had a lot of these when I had my mercury toxicity. So back to this. Is diabetes primarily driven by toxins? The Integrative Medicine, a clinician's journal, argues that it does. And this study is phenomenal. It breaks down different toxins and how it disrupts different bodily functions. Triggering diabetes is one of the main things it investigated. And this study showed there are many mechanisms for blood sugar control disruption by these toxins. They can be loosely divided into 2 broad categories: impaired insulin sensitivity and decreased insulin production. The third toxin that makes all of this worse is glyphosate. You may have seen this cover of Time magazine on the poisoning of an entire generation about toxins, especially glyphosate. But Stephanie Seneff, who's an MIT researcher, and Nancy Swanson have proven that glyphosate makes these heavy metals like mercury, aluminum, and others go deeper into our tissues, making it harder to eliminate them. Europe banned glyphosate in 2016, Italy did, yet we still have it in our food supply. It's estimated to be in most of our food supply, even organic, because it's everywhere. And Stephanie Seneff and Nancy Swanson tracked the application of glyphosate and specific diseases. And they showed very strong correlations. For example, they tracked when glyphosate started to get applied in the United States in 1989, and the rise of dementia tracks pretty evenly. They also tracked it in diabetes. You can see the rise of glyphosate and diabetes track pretty evenly. They tracked autism rates with glyphosate application, rised pretty evenly. They tracked Alzheimer's with the application of glyphosate, also tracked evenly. And lastly, they also tracked Parkinson's with the application of glyphosate, and it tracked pretty evenly as well. So we have an issue. And Make America Healthy Again, I don't know if it's gonna work. I believe it will. I love what RFK has done in the past. I love some of the rock stars the administration's bringing on board. I just know we need to change. The current system is not working. It is not healthcare, it is sick care. And we are down the wrong path. Something's gotta change. And if Make America Healthy Again is it, I'm all for it. It remains to be seen, but you know me, I will show up, I will educate, I'll be here to help empower you and help you understand how incredible your amazing human body is. And I wanna share this really important news with you. I have a brand new book coming out on May 13th, 2025 called Metabolic Freedom. In this book, the first half explains the causes of metabolic disease. The second half gets into the solutions with a 30-day plan that takes it all together for you to achieve metabolic health and metabolic freedom within 30 days. This will be the greatest book you've ever read on metabolic health or listened to. I'll be narrating the book, and you can actually order it right now. This is the first time I've announced it. I'm going to put a link for the book in the notes down below. You can order it right now. Go get it. Make sure you read the book or listen to the book. It'll change your life. It's called Metabolic Freedom, and go to the link down below to go get it. I hope this lesson was valuable. Please share it with somebody you know. I know I offended some people just talking about MAHA and RFK, but that's okay. I needed to speak the truth. I'm just for metabolic health, and if MAHA is the way, I'm for that as long as people get healthier and we get rid of this corrupted system called sick care, where it ties big food with big pharma and big gov. We need to disrupt this, and hopefully this is how we do it. If you love this, which brings me to the quote that Einstein said, "Intellectuals solve problems, geniuses prevent them." Go be a genius, prevent the problems, go read the book, it'll help you accomplish that. And if you loved today's lesson and you're looking to burn visceral fat, the nasty fat around your organs, check out a recent video I just launched all about this. Here's a clip, and I'll see you in that next video. The first step to burning visceral fat is to lower a hormone called insulin. When this hormone insulin is elevated, a ton of visceral fat gets stored around your belly. This is a problem because that visceral fat applies pressure to your heart, your kidneys, to your liver, and your pancreas.